Greetings, hosers. Now that my channel is up and running, I would like to take this opportunity to start a series that I've been thinking of making for the past 3 years. In my new series, I will take a look back at some of wrestling's greatest rivalries and determine which one I believe to be the greatest. The first one being placed under the microscope is one that is near and dear to my shriveled heart, that being Shawn Michaels versus Chris Jericho. This was one of the first rivalries I ever saw as a fan, as I started watching wrestling in January 2008. For a young fan who didn't quite grasp the concept of wrestling, this feud was still fantastic, even if I didn't understand just how great it was. Now, 13 years later, I will take an in-depth look at the first great wrestling rivalry I ever saw in full. This video will focus on Michaels and Jericho's rivalry from 2008, but first, we must wind back the clock to 2003, where their story begins. Jericho and Michaels competed at WrestleMania 19 in a very different match than they would have 5 years later. Here, Michaels had come out of retirement but was still unsure about his future. You can watch interviews with Michaels where he talks about being nervous and not knowing if he was actually going to stick around and make a go of things. So, in storyline and real life, this WrestleMania match with Jericho was about refinding his confidence. On the other side of the ring was Chris Jericho, and the reason this 2003 chapter is so important. Jericho expressed his past respect and admiration for the Heartbreak Kid, revealing that Michaels had been his favorite wrestler and inspiration for getting into the business. However, being the heel, Jericho wanted to prove that he had surpassed Michaels and that his former idol was a has-been. The two had a fantastic match at WrestleMania, arguably the best on the show, with Mr. WrestleMania himself picking up the win. Jericho, not to be outdone, would get his heat back afterward by kicking Michaels in the showstopper. The match itself doesn't hold much significance for their 2008 rivalry, but the motivation of Jericho's character in 2003 helps to set up his emotional connection with Michaels later on. Fast forward 5 years and we're ready to start our adventure. Shawn Michaels was largely the same performer, as he didn't really change much as a character during his second WWE tenure. You know, aside from the time that he was especially mean to the people in Montreal for a summer.
Got your hopes up just a little bit, didn't I?
Jericho, on the other hand, was in a weird state as 2007 rolled over into 2008. He had returned as the wacky Y2J Chris Jericho character to save WWE fans from Randy Orton. Didn't really work out. But his return set the stage for the best rivalry of the year, bar none. This story begins at WrestleMania 24 as Shawn Michaels ended the WWE career of Ric Flair. The next night, seeds started being planted as Michaels, Jericho, and Batista shared the ring for Flair's retirement ceremony. Batista was unhappy with Michaels for not laying down for Flair at WrestleMania, while Michaels argued that he gave Flair exactly what he had asked for, that being Michaels at his best. At the same time, Jericho began pissing off both men and getting his ass beat for it. This wasn't a turn to villainy, but more Jericho trying to get under the skin of both men, while being a bit of a jackass. Batista and Shawn Michaels were set for a match at Backlash, while Jericho was named the special referee. Jericho didn't play a factor into this match, but his involvement served to advance the story given what happened at the finish. As Michaels slipped out of a Batista bomb attempt, he crumpled to the mat holding his knee. Jericho pulled Batista away as Michaels got to his feet and hit sweet chin music with Jericho counting the 3. Michaels had won and hobbled to the back, being helped by Jericho and a second referee. For the next few weeks, Jericho began making claims that Michaels was faking his injury. What an asshole! People thought at the time. Except, he was right. As a match between Michaels and Jericho was announced for Judgment Day, Jericho came to the conclusion that Michaels was hurt after a tag team match against The Miz and John Morrison. He sincerely apologized and urged Michaels to call off their match for the sake of Shawn's own well-being. This is where the entire crux of the story takes hold. Michaels, the beloved hero, admitted that he was faking his knee injury before super kicking Jericho.
In bird culture, this is considered a dick move.
Had this involved anyone else, this would have been a heel turn. The hero fakes an injury, lies about it, then kicks someone who is concerned about his well-being in the face.
Lies make baby Jesus cry.
Michaels and Jericho wrestled at Judgment Day and had a great match, although this is the least memorable of their saga. Jericho wrestled like he was coming to grips with Michaels' betrayal from the week prior. He wasn't really frustrated, but you could tell he was definitely hurt. Keep in mind they were peers, but Michaels was still someone who Jericho had idolized. This is where the connection from 2003 comes into play, as we've already established the history between the two, as well as the admiration that Jericho has for Michaels. Both men were still babyfaces here, and they had a more technical wrestling match than we would see later. Ultimately, Michaels won with a roll-up, and this is kinda nitpicky, but it always stuck out that Jericho just lays limp after he's been rolled up. Struggle! Damn you. Try and kick out! After the match, Jericho offered a handshake, which Michaels accepted. After the match, Michaels was greeted by Drax the Destroyer, who did not take kindly to HBK's phony knee injury. 2 weeks later, Michaels and Batista had a stretcher match at One Night Stand where Jericho was once again involved. This was not Michaels' night, as Batista utterly decimated him. Amidst the carnage, Jericho would appear to try and will Michaels on before Batista finally proved too much for him.
This is even more painful than it looks.
This would bring Batista's involvement in this storyline to an end, but he more than served his purpose. The next time we would see Shawn Michaels would be on Raw 8 days later when Jericho once again invited him on the highlight reel. This is the most important moment of this rivalry, as Jericho finally confronted Michaels for lying.
And when I pointed out your fabrications of the truth, suddenly I got booed. I mean...
Well, why are you booing me? I'm right!
He told Shawn he had become a lying, cheating, pathetic little worm of a human being before kicking him low. Jericho held Michaels' face in his hands, told him the worst was yet to come, and threw him face first into the Jeritron 5000. Man, it's hard to sound serious when you have to try and say Jeritron 5000. As an 11-year-old, this was very dark and one of the last moments of mature storytelling before WWE began the PG era. This was the first time I had seen a heel turn, and I didn't quite understand what I had witnessed. Jericho was a good guy, and even then I knew he was right to be angry, but he lashed out in a moment of malice and violence. This marked the end of the Y2J character for a long time, and the beginning of perhaps the greatest run of Chris Jericho's career. Jericho revealed a new character inspired by wrestling legend Nick Bockwinkel and Javier Bardem's character from No Country for Old Men, Anton Chigurh. Bockwinkel wore a suit and used big words, traits that Jericho would mix with Chigurh's quiet and intense speech patterns.
The most you ever lost in a coin toss. You've been putting it up your whole life. You just didn't know it. You know what date is on this coin? No. 1958. It's been traveling 22 years to get here. And now it's here. And it's either heads or tails.
Ugh. What we got was honest man Chris Jericho, who wore suits, used big words, spoke slowly, but had a haircut like he was in NSYNC. In the coming weeks, Jericho denounced his former character, Michaels for lying, and most importantly, the fans. Running down the audience is something almost every heel in wrestling does. This town smells. You fans are all ugly. The New York Knicks suck. The difference is Jericho was speaking from a place of truth and honesty, except for that last one. The Knicks really do suck. Jericho called fans hypocrites for cheering for a man who blatantly lied to them. And he was right. The fans were cheering for Michaels after he had lied to them, and there was really no justification for it either. Michaels had done a villainous act, and the fans shrugged it off and even cheered when he kicked Jericho. This made Jericho an even more effective and detestable heel because words sting so much more when they are true. This gave Jericho the most important part of his character: motivation. The driving force behind a character is one of the keys to their success, and you can see that with a lot of the heel turns in recent years. Shinsuke Nakamura turns on AJ Styles at WrestleMania. Why? I don't know, bro, he doesn't speak English. Dean Ambrose turns on Seth Rollins, and for what? You never forgave him for breaking up the Shield? Why'd you align with them for a year then? The motivations of these characters were never clear, and their turns never amounted to much. Compare that now with Chris Jericho, whose motivations and goals were clear and understandable from the jump. The difference is night and day. As Jericho revealed this new side of himself, it was announced that Michaels was having glass taken out of his eye from having his face put through the Jeritron 5000. God damn it, there it is again. An eye injury was pretty unique at the time, and they executed this story by planning an intricate and effective rivalry around Michaels' injury in a way that hasn't been done since. Jericho would ramp up his heelish tactics, bringing on Michaels' former trainee Lance Cade as his heater. Jericho also continued to target Michaels' eye, with Michaels falling face first into the edge of the announce table during a brawl at the WWE Draft. It didn't get better, as Michaels cost Jericho the Intercontinental Championship at Night of Champions. Notice how I haven't mentioned the Intercontinental title yet. Kinda goes to show how unimportant the title is even then. Sure enough, this didn't sit well with Jericho, who sucker punched Michaels in the eye. This is a great example of getting the most out of very little, as something so simple as a punch or one bump into the announce table was able to generate so much heat from the audience. While Michaels' eye had become the focal point of the storyline physically, the narrative behind the character's actions began to change. Jericho continued his tirade against the fans for being hypocrites, but soon enough, Michaels challenged him to a match at the Great American Bash and dropped a bombshell on Jericho during a dueling promo segment on Raw. He told Jericho that despite all his countless achievements, Jericho does not know peace because he knows he will never be Shawn Michaels. This is significant for a few reasons. First, it established that jealousy has always been a motivator for Jericho, which makes him a less redeemable character than if he was simply acting out of his own sense of justice. Second, it serves as a callback to their WrestleMania match from 2003 and shows that even 5 years later, Jericho hasn't gotten over his jealousy. Commentators could have done a better job highlighting this, but I tend not to expect much from WWE commentary, especially when it's Michael fucking Cole. Regardless, this adds just another layer to an already layered storyline. This leads us to the second match in this 2008 rivalry at the Great American Bash. A bit of a side note, but I love how Shawn Michaels walks to the ring in this match. No energy, no pyro, no theatrics, he just walks while never taking his eyes off of Jericho. In WWE nowadays, stars are instructed to do their entrance the same way, no matter the context. You're hurt? Don't sell. Supposed to be mad? Do your wacky entrance anyway. Are you gonna tell me that if the Miz's infant daughter was really being stalked by a freak in a clown mask, Miz would come to the ring like this? This is done because fans supposedly pay to see entrances, but it greatly detracts from the stories being told. This match doesn't have that problem, as Michaels is filled with intensity from the jump. The match is good, although probably the weakest of the rivalry. The first half saw Jericho work over Michaels' back, and things were pretty standard until Michaels hit a moonsault to the outside. As they struggled to their feet, Jericho hit a back elbow to Michaels' damaged eye, splitting him wide open. He hit a gusher too. I've heard people say this match was the reason WWE went PG after sponsors complained about the graphic violence exhibited. This was basically it for Michaels as Jericho zeroed in on his video game weak spot for the rest of the match. I really love the look on Jericho's face when he sees the damage he's done.
Blood?
Jericho beat Michaels senseless until Marty Elias declared Michaels unable to compete.
Stop! He's already dead.
The TKO finish in wrestling is fantastic, and it was done perfectly here. Michaels was left in a pool of his own blood, visibly shaken and confused, and later in the show, Jericho announced that Michaels had suffered a detached retina. That's a big boo-boo. Jericho said that sometimes the good guys do win, and for Michaels, the worst had finally come. What is this? Long-term storytelling? Oh, injected into my veins. In the weeks that followed, Jericho continued to gloat about ending the career of Shawn Michaels, while Michaels took his time to consult doctors and weigh his options. At SummerSlam, Michaels and his wife Rebecca made an appearance to announce Shawn's course of action. He announced that due to his eye injury and his numerous other injuries, he would be retiring from wrestling. Michaels gave a very sincere retirement speech that had people in the crowd crying. He had these people, man. He had them to the extent that when Jericho's music hit to interrupt, people cheered because they realized that this was all an angle. In his arrogance, Jericho would not allow Michaels to lump all of his injuries together and retire on his own terms. He wanted to hear Michaels admit that he was walking away because of what Chris Jericho did to him. It should be mentioned that 2008 was one of the years that Jericho won the Wrestling Observer Newsletter Award for Best on Interviews, so just know that every promo he cut in this feud was a home run. Michaels agreed and said he would sit his wife and kids down and tell them that all of this was because of a vile, selfish, worthless human being.
The fuck you say to me, you little shit?
But said that Jericho needed to sit his own wife and kids down and tell them that Daddy would never be Shawn Michaels. Jericho didn't like that and went to sucker punch Michaels again, only for Shawn to duck and Rebecca to get hit instead. He really nailed her too. Everyone was a step out of place and Jericho socked her right in the mouth. Aside from the accidental wife punching, this was a slam dunk segment. Jericho's hubris wouldn't just allow Michaels to retire. He had to get one final laugh in, and doing so brought about his own destruction. Now, I need to discuss one of the most crucial keys to the success of this storyline. If you say this rivalry began the night after WrestleMania, that means that there have been 6 pay-per-views to this point. You know how many matches these two have had so far? 2. One at Judgment Day and one at the Great American Bash. However, all 6 pay-per-views have progressed the storyline in new and intriguing ways. Being able to extend storylines without overdoing matches has been one of the things WWE is completely incapable of doing these days. You know how excited I was to see AJ Styles versus Shinsuke Nakamura at WrestleMania? Pretty damn excited. You know how excited I was to see them wrestle on their 4th straight pay-per-view? Not fucking excited. There are endless examples of WWE doing this, whether it's Drew McIntyre versus Randy Orton, the Usos versus New Day, AJ Styles versus Samoa Joe. No matter how much you want to see that first match, you will get tired of them eventually. Michaels and Jericho avoided this issue entirely by spacing out their matches and giving each of them a completely different context. No 2 matches in this rivalry are the same, and it makes things so much more interesting and fun to watch. So Jericho sulked up the ramp because he knew he fucked up, and he addressed his actions on Raw the next night. Jericho placed the blame for what happened on the fans for being pandered to, and on Shawn himself for showing no humility. Then he dropped the bomb that Shawn deserved what had happened. Boy, I tell ya, watching this as an 11-year-old, my blood was boiling from this promo. It doesn't matter if you know this is a work or not. It is near impossible to watch this and not want to knock Jericho's teeth out. Foreshadowing. The heel work and psychology here is so much more engaging than if Jericho had just done something villainous on purpose. Us seeing his face and expecting him to be remorseful, only for him to double down and say, "No, I'm not sorry, and by the way, you deserve that shit," is a tremendous way to subvert expectations and push the storyline forward. Of course, Michaels announced that he would not be retiring, and an unsanctioned match was signed for Unforgiven. The contract signing for this match was one of the better contract signings ever. Jericho was just despicable, not even looking at Michaels while Shawn cut a fantastic promo. Shawn told Jericho that Unforgiven was an appropriate name because he would never forgive Jericho for what he had done to him, and that he had hoped God would one day forgive him for what he did to Jericho. Goddamn, bro, that is some raw shit. No, not you. Michaels would also add that at Unforgiven, it would be an eye for an eye. Now, I've waited to bring this up because I wanted to give you a proper look at the bulk of this story before I brought this up, but look how much better this is than the Seth Rollins versus Rey Mysterio bullshit. These two rivalries have some similarities. They both include eye injuries, they both involve the babyface's family, and they're both really long. But whereas Michaels and Jericho is one of the best rivalries of the 21st century, Rollins and Mysterio fails on almost every level of storytelling. I could do a whole video on this stupid feud, but these are some of the things that illustrate how WWE is incapable of basic storytelling these days. Number 1, Seth Rollins has no motivation. Rey congratulates him on being a dad-to-be, and Seth goes nuts and injures Rey's eye. Number 2, Seth Rollins has no endgame. There's no goal here. Rollins just torments Mysterio for 6 months, then goes away. Number 3, there's no focus. The story is Rey wants revenge, and he fails. Then Dominic wants revenge, and he fails. And then Murphy starts making out with Rey's teen daughter, and Jesus Christ. Number 4, Murphy makes out with Rey Mysterio's teenage daughter. What the fuck? Number 5, they wrestle too fucking much. Remember how I said Jericho and Michaels had wrestled twice in 5 months? From the start of this feud to the end, Rey or Dominic Mysterio wrestled Seth or Murphy 13 fucking times. You can't make me want to watch them wrestle if they never stop fucking wrestling. I'm gonna have a fucking stroke. Number 6, cut the cartoon bullshit. The eye for an eye match is a joke. Notice how Jericho and Michaels never had a gimmick match where you win by pulling out a dude's eyeball? How anyone is supposed to take this seriously when there's a CG eyeball and Rollins puking on the floor is beyond me. Jericho and Michaels is an ultra-serious story with multi-dimensional characters and an evolving narrative. Rollins and Mysterio is a cartoon, and a bad cartoon, because I'd watch Batman the Animated Series over this every day of the week. I really went off on a tangent there, wow. But you can see the difference. Back to the match at hand, the unsanctioned match at Unforgiven is incredibly violent, by far the most violent in the rivalry. Jericho got a bit of heat early, attacking Michaels' eye and newly injured tricep, but really, this was the Shawn Michaels show. There was none of the grappling from their previous two matches. Michaels was not here to fight, but to hurt Chris Jericho. He sure did too, Jesus Christ. Lance Cade didn't interfere, allowing Jericho to get back on offense briefly, but Michaels managed to fight out, put Jericho through a table, stack both men up in a romantic position, and put them down for good. Jericho was done by this point, and Michaels took the chance to whip him with his belt and punch him repeatedly in the eye. Now, I'm split on the finish here. I love that this is the exact same finish from their previous match at the Great American Bash. Perfect, symbolic, thematic, pro wrestling. However, I do think a referee stoppage in an unsanctioned match is kinda whack. Almost any other match type, I think this works, but in a match where they literally had to sign a contract saying neither man goes to jail if the other is killed, I don't really buy the referee saying, nah bruh, no more punching for you. The fans were pissed too. They booed Marty Elias when he waved off the match, even though Michaels had won. Oh well. It bothers me, but it does service the story as Michaels got his rage out while also feeling like he had more to give, and the referee probably should be protecting the participants and whatever. After the match, Michaels pointed out that this was the first pay-per-view in 3 months he didn't spend in the hospital. A very nice touch to remind us of how much Shawn has been through up to this point. He said he was content but not satisfied and would do what he did to Chris Jericho every night for the rest of his life before closing by saying the worst was yet to come. A lovely callback to the start of this rivalry. Then things get kinda odd. See, Unforgiven was the show built around those weird scramble matches, and halfway through the show, Randy Orton decided to kick CM Punk in the head.
Kicking? Oh, I want to do some kicking!
Raw GM Mike Adamle said he would find a replacement, and despite William Regal offering his services, Adamle went with the decaying corpse of Chris Jericho. So, fuck William Regal, I guess. Now, I was gonna talk about how this didn't make sense, but taking a look at the Raw roster at the time, yeah, grab Jericho from the morgue, it's fine. Not including guys who were injured and assuming Shawn Michaels had left the building already, your other options were Charlie Haas, Cody Rhodes, D'Lo Brown, D.H. Smith, Deuce, Crime Time, Jamie Noble, Jim Duggan, Lance Cade, Manu, who the fuck? Whatever. Paul Burchill, Santino, Snitsky, Ted DiBiase, a literal piece of shit, and William Regal. So despite it making no sense for Jericho to lose and be rewarded, options were fucking limited. Jericho limped out as the final entrant in the scramble match, and seriously, he is on death's door, and it looks awesome. His nose is busted, his elbow is bleeding, his hair is messed up, and his back is covered in welts. So the match is going on, and Batista pins Kane with a spinebuster, which is kinda unusual, but not totally unheard of. But then he gets distracted, and Jericho pins Kane again 30 seconds later, after he was only hit with one spinebuster. Whatever, it doesn't matter. Jericho's the World Heavyweight Champion. Whee! While the end of Unforgiven is a bit clunky, it does succeed at giving Michaels and Jericho a reason to have another match. Admittedly, this is where most of the emotion in the rivalry has already hit its peak. That's not to say the rest of the rivalry is bad, but all of the emotionally charged moments are definitely behind us. The World Heavyweight Championship gave Jericho another thing to gloat about, and now being the symbolic top star of Raw gave his ego an unneeded boost. After retaining the title against CM Punk on Raw, Jericho was informed that he would be defending the title at No Mercy. Who could his opponent be? Why, Shawn Michaels, of course! And Michaels said that this match would have a stipulation. I wonder what it could be. No idea, really. Not a clue.
Ladder match!
Holy shit, I did not see that coming. In all seriousness, if we were gonna get another match between these two, there had to be a new element of some sort. Michaels had said the worst was still to come for Jericho, but just having another match after Shawn had already given him the work like he had done would have been kinda odd. Having the title involved gave Michaels something material to take from Jericho and complete his hero's journey. While not necessarily as emotional as their past matches, they saved the best for last in terms of in-ring work. This ladder match at No Mercy is fucking awesome. In a year stacked with top-notch performances, this match won the Wrestling Observer Newsletter's award for Match of the Year. And for good reason. A lot of those early ladder matches don't really hold up, just because of the acrobatics evolving throughout the years. I mean, once you've seen Matt Jackson get hit with a Canadian Destroyer off a ladder, it's kinda hard to get up for Shawn Michaels just hitting a splash on Razor Ramon. This match does not have that problem. There are high spots, like Michaels knocking Jericho's tooth out with a ladder, and Jericho and Michaels tumbling through the announce table, but this was a wrestling match involving a ladder, rather than a spot fest, and it holds up tremendously as a result. I love this moment where Jericho kicks the ladder into the post and it ricochets back into Michael's eye. Things like that are so creative and unique to this story, and that's what I want. At the end of a storyline like this, I want the blow-off match to feel like it could only work for this storyline. Michaels pitched Jericho to the outside from the top of the ladder. Yeah, I don't know how he didn't blow out his knees on this one. But in the closing moments, Jericho gets hung upside down by his leg, only for Lance Cade to cost Michaels the match and the title. This led to an all-time great ladder match finish. As Michaels and Jericho were fighting atop the ladder, the title became unstrapped and the two began a tug of war. Jericho seemed done for, holding on with one hand as he dangled above the mat. In a crucial error, Michaels pulled Jericho in to hit a finishing blow, only for Jericho's head to catch Michaels in the eye. This sent the Heartbreak Kid down to the mat below. Jericho retained the title, effectively putting a cap on the best rivalry of 2008, and maybe the best rivalry ever. The two would have a last man standing match on Raw in their final battle of 2008, but by this point Jericho was preparing to defend the World Heavyweight Championship against John Cena, and Michaels was feuding with JBL. Their history was no longer the focus of Raw, making the ladder match at No Mercy an excellent final chapter to a great storyline. WWE's main roster doesn't make them like this anymore, kids. The multi-dimensional characters, deeply layered motivations, incredible promos, and dynamic matches swirled together to create a perfect cocktail of pro wrestling. I may have nostalgia goggles on for this one, but I truly believe it is up there with the best rivalries of all time. However, as this is just the first entry in this series, we have a lot of wrestling left to watch before we can crown one true best rivalry ever. So make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single one. Howdy friends, I hope you enjoyed the first video in this new series. If you have any rivalries that you specifically want me to talk about, make sure you comment down below. Let me know what you thought of this video anyway, and any other potential video topics that you would like me to cover on this channel. I got tons of ideas, but I would love to hear yours. Make sure you subscribe, of course, and share this video around. We want to get the numbers up as we keep going, and that'll do it for this time. Bye-bye.